News Radio. My name is Charlie McGrath. It is the 19th day of September 2012, Wednesday, and we have an absolutely terrific program lined up for you this evening. If you are not in the chat, if you want to join the folks in chat right now, you can go to wideawakenews.com. Just click on the microphone in the right-hand corner, and that'll take you into the chat room, and Shoutcast will automatically start broadcasting the program. But if you're listening to me right now, you're listening to me somehow. Get into the chat room. Adrian Salbuchi is our guest for the first hour, and always a very fascinating interview. It's been too long since he's been on. We're going to talk about the globalist agenda and where we are in this takeover of planet Earth by these people who pose to be do-gooders. Now, I have Adrian on standby, and I told him I definitely want to talk about his new book, and we're going to spend this first hour primarily on that topic. But I'm going to kick it off with a little piece of information that was released today. Now, I'm going to say this first judge's name because I truly believe that she's not necessarily a hero, but she's upholding the Constitution of this once great republic. Catherine B. Forrest. If for those of you who don't recognize that name, let me spell it out here for you. She was the judge with the courage a week ago to tell the government, you know what, National Defense Authorization Act 2012 flies in the face of the Constitution, the rule of law in this land, and you cannot uphold tenets in it that allow the government, the plaintiff in this case, or the defendant rather in this case, to indefinitely detain American citizens. You know, and we all remember National Defense Authorization Act 2012 when it was passed into law. The president issued a signing statement saying he has given himself this power, but he will never use it. Don't be fooled for 1 second. Government has never given itself power without using that power, and inevitably, if a government is implementing tyrannical laws, they're going to be a tyrannical government. It's not an if, it's a when, and that is going to occur. Catherine B. Forrest overturned NDAA 2012, and there was a lot of hoopla in the alternative media over this, and it was great. It was great news. Finally, some great news. A judge stood up and said you cannot detain Americans without due process, which is guaranteed to them by the Constitution. And in fact, the government sought an injunction, an immediate injunction, and that was overturned. So they took it to the next highest court in the land in New York, of all places, the next district up, and they issued a stay. Now, the government's argument was simple. We have already got this power. It was given to the government during 9/11, literally, guys, not a month, not 2 months, not a year after 9/11 where Congress had time to sit and think through what was going to happen when they devastated the Constitution of this country and made any person that lives in the United States come under this tyrannical rule of law. Not a year, not 2 years, not 6 years, not 10 years, not even 12 years after the fact. No. This law, this AUMF, Authorization of Military Force, was ready to go, and it was in place, get this, 36 hours after 9/11. 36 hours after 9/11, the Authorization of Military Force was granted. In it, the government claims it has already achieved the power in order to detain anyone that it deems to be a terrorist against the state. So it begs the question, first of all, what is this court thinking, making any person in this country be subject to this tyrannical law? Secondly, it makes one think, what is the government's argument here? If they already have the authorization of military force that was granted to them 36 hours after the bombing in 9/11, if they already have this power, why on earth are they fighting to keep the verbiage in National Defense Authorization Act 2012? And the truth be told, my opinion 100% on this is this National Defense Authorization Act 2012 gives them the jackbooted thuggery that they want to have so bad. It brings them to the point where they can, impose Stasi-style tactics. Anybody that speaks out against the government can be black-bagged and done away with. Does that sound conspiratorial? Does it sound like tinfoil hat talk? Look, the verbiage goes exactly like this in National Defense Authorization Act 2012. If you are deemed to be a substantial supporter, directly or indirectly, of Al-Qaeda or the Taliban or any associated force or belligerent actor you can fall under these articles in this legislation. You can be detained indefinitely without trial, without seeing daylight, thrown in a dark hole forever. It is open-ended. It is forever. It's like QE3, but on your freedom. Open-ended forever. They can throw you in this hole if you happen to be a substantial supporter or direct supporter or member of Al-Qaeda, Taliban, or associated force or belligerent actor. Now, we don't have to look very hard around this world to see what's happening. The mainstream media, the power elite, are setting the stage to make anybody, Adrian Salbuchi, Charlie McGrath, Eric Lovely, Dex, who's coming on in the second hour, anybody in alternative media, anybody that dares to do anything other than to plug in to the mainstream propaganda, pop culture, infotainment, anybody who wants to think outside of that little box, that paradigm, you will be at the mercy of this law, where they can make you into a belligerent actor. Am I giving substantial aid right now to Al-Qaeda because I believe the war that we're raging in Afghanistan, in Iraq, is soon to be in Iran, certainly butchering the leadership of Libya, and you know what, it's probably just a Freudian slip there, because Syria is probably coming next up on the chopping block. Am I giving substantial support when I say the government backed Al-Qaeda inside of Libya in order to kill Muammar Gaddafi? Am I giving support because I'm talking against the American involvement in expansion of empire around this world? If I am, guess what? I am subject. It's not that I could be. I am subject to National Defense Authorization Act 2012. I could be black bagged, done away with. All right, now to come on here and talk about this is a great friend of the program and a patriot, somebody who absolutely, I was telling him before the program, mesmerizes me with his videos. And I don't know what it is, Adrian. I don't know if it's the graphics you have come up on your videos. I don't know if it's your delivery. But I watch a 15-minute video, and it feels like I watch a 3-minute video. Adrian Salbuchi, welcome back to the program. Great to have you on.
Well, thank you very much, Charlie. It's great to be on your show as always. And I hope we can do this more often, actually, because when I listen to you, I too am mesmerized with all the things that you say. Because, these are basic truths that people, are increasingly realizing, but still most people in every country around the world don't seem to get the hang of what's really going on. I mean, they have already taken our countries away. It's not just a problem in America or in Argentina, where I'm speaking from, or in the European countries. It's a global problem. And when I see the same effect and the same model and the same problems in country after country, America, Britain, France, Greece, Italy, Spain, Argentina, Brazil, and so forth, I figure, hey, wait a minute, I can understand that maybe one set of people are rather stupid, Argentinians, for instance, or something. We're very good at really making a mess of it, out of everything. But it can't be every country after country. So what we have is a real model. And contrary to history, where usually one country's enemy was another country somewhere else geographically. I don't know. During the Revolutionary Wars, America's enemy was Britain. During the European Wars, you had France thinking that Germany was an enemy, and Germany thinking that Poland was an enemy, and so forth. But the real change that has taken place in the last 30, 40 years is that the enemy is not to the left, to the right, or across the border. The enemy is upstairs. It is a global, supranational power structure that is completely divorced of any identity with any nation in particular, and it holds us all as colonies. So in a way, that is the main problem. The enemy has literally taken over the world, and what they need to do is they need to buy and impose their will upon us. Now, they can't do that by brute force, except in only in exceptional circumstances, as we saw in Iraq or as we saw in Libya, where you had Hillary Clinton saying, "Oh, we came, we saw, he died," and cracking up and laughing on national television. Disgusting, because Muammar Gaddafi, and it wasn't just Muammar Gaddafi; it was some of his sons and his grandchildren.
Yeah, and how many? First of all, let's be real. I mean, Libya was in North Africa. Libya was as modern as you could possibly get, right? Libya, who had Muammar Gaddafi as a leader, who had Condoleezza Rice go over there, talk about normalized trade relation, have Brown go over there, put his arm around him, talk about how he's an integral part on the war on terror. The mainstream media was used to turn that country suddenly into the next Hitler-run nation, just like we did inside of Iraq, just like we did in Afghanistan, just like we will inside of Syria. Adrian, hold your thought. We're going to take our first break of the program. When we get back, I want to talk about The Coming World Government, Tragedy and Hope by Adrian Salbuchi. We'll be back in 3.5 minutes. Hang tight. Guys, welcome back to Wide Awake News Radio. I'm Charlie McGrath, your host. We have 70 folks in the chat room. If you want to join them, wideawakenews.com. Click on that second tab or click on the microphone, and that will take you into the chat. Adrian Salbuchi, author and patriot, world patriot, is coming out with a new book, an e-book. Am I calling that e-book, or is it? Yeah, it's an e-book. You download it.
Yeah.
The Coming World Government. And the reason I'm jumping right into this, Adrian, is with only 3 segments left, I want to make sure we can cover what's in this book and what your goals are for releasing this, and then tell people how to get it. So, Adrian Salbuchi, take it away.
Well, thanks, Charlie. It actually ties in exactly with the examples you were giving at when you began the show, talking about these court decisions regarding what helping or abetting the enemy is, and how you can be arrested in America of all places just because you might turn around and say, wait a minute, maybe Al Qaeda is not exactly the enemy. Maybe Al Qaeda was even formed by the CIA. Maybe 9/11 was about something completely different, and it wasn't just 19 terrorists, suicidal terrorists, led by one nut hidden in a cave in Afghanistan. Maybe it was a little bit more complicated than that.
And I don't mean to interrupt you, but I hear you say that, and I say the exact same things that you do. And it literally strikes me to my soul that those words we utter in not too distant future, Adrian, we could have a knock on our door because of that.
Yes, I know. Oh, yeah, definitely. And the thing is that, in a way, on top of that, it insults your intelligence to believe that you can believe something as stupid as that. And finally, the whole thing was closed, what was it, 2 years ago, when they said, hey, we captured Osama bin Laden, we killed him, but we dropped his corpse into the ocean.
Yeah, we kicked him off the side of an aircraft carrier. The most wanted man since Adolf Hitler, right? The most wanted man on this planet, living in a cave with a dialysis machine. And they finally get him. We have this big Navy SEAL operation. We get him, and we're going to kick him off the side of an aircraft carrier. It makes a lot of sense.
So basically, let me just say this, because I know we don't have that much time, and very often it's good to boil complex problems into something simple. Let me first of all say, generally, I don't read newspapers, and you will probably say, what's wrong with this guy? What do you mean you don't read newspapers? Yeah, I browse through them, but I avoid reading them, because what do newspapers do? It gives you tiny, very thin slices of daily events. It tells you this happened in Wall Street, that happened with the Greeks, this is the latest news from Libya, that's happening in Syria, here is the American election, and blah, 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 and same thing in Argentina. So you have a lot of information, even information overdrive, which is an indirect way of censorship, because with all the noise you just can't hear anything, but it never tells you what the basic model within which we have to interpret the daily news or the weekly or the monthly news should be. And the basic model, I think, is that A, we are going towards a world government, B, they are doing this on a long-term basis, and C, that coming world government is private. It's basically private power that is imposing its will on the entire on the entire world. And in a way, when you look at the model and you figure, okay, so where is power? You mean the President of the United States is no longer the most powerful man in the world? And you go, absolutely not. He is just a CEO for the corporation US of A, just as David Cameron is the CEO for Britain, or Hollande is CEO for France. And you figure, okay, so who's on top? We go back to what we were saying before. Power is no longer at a national level. It's at a supranational level. And we have this global power elite managing everything and trying to do it in such a way that they will win over our will, even if it is only passively, by duping our brains, by tying us down with invisible chains that goes deep into our minds. You see, that was one of the big lessons of the Marxist and Bolshevik experiment in the former Soviet Union. They learned, the global power elite, that you cannot control people by forcing them to do things. Because, okay, if you point a gun at somebody, they'll say, okay, I'll behave the way you want me to behave, otherwise you're going to shoot me, but I don't think the way you want me to think. And they realize that that is not enough. They need us to think the way they want us to do, because then they don't have to tie us down, they don't have to build Berlin walls, we will just be, sheeple, Homer Simpson sitting, couch potatoes, watching TV and opening a can of Duff. So in a way, that's what they've achieved with the vast majority of people. And that's where people like you and me become extremely dangerous, and it explains this court decision that you were talking about at the top of the hour, because, we are dangerous. We are the most dangerous people. And in my book, World Government, what I try to do is to say, okay, nothing better to know what's happening than to put yourself in the shoes of the enemy. So I'm going to put myself in the shoes of the enemy for 30 seconds. I've got all the money in the world, and I literally mean that, because I can print all the money in the world I want through the Bank of England, the Federal Reserve, and just about every other central bank. I control all money flows. I control all the major media. I have lots of power. So what are your public enemies? Well, my public enemies are basically the sovereign nation state. That's why I need for the American sovereign nation state to be under my control, because as long as the White House is in the hands of your Bushes and your Clintons and your Obamas, okay. But what would happen if tomorrow the people of America were to elect Charlie McGrath as president of the United States? We've got a problem. So they need to control the entire very complex mechanism of the American state, so that if a guy like you pops up, they'll get rid of you one way or another. They will have to ensure that they can bypass you, that they can neutralize you, and it's not just a question of saying, okay, they will shoot people. Yeah, they will do that if necessary. But what they need is for public opinion not to listen to you. So public enemy number one is the sovereign nation state. Public enemy number two is sovereign currency. In other words, not the Fed issuing private money, but a real central bank issuing public money, non-interest bearing, to serve the real economy. Public enemy number three is if we did away with the whole concept of debt. If people realize that you can do things without becoming indebted. Yeah. Public enemy number four is our the democratic institutions, our Republican institutions rather, being subservient to money, and public enemy number five are our values.
I want to expand on this a little bit. Let's do it after this break, Adrian. I want to tell everybody that Adrian and Karen are guest hosts on Friday, as well as doing all the scheduling for the show program. Both recently had a birthday. It's on the exact same day, so happy birthday, Adrian. Happy birthday, Karen.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. We're going to be back with Adrian Salbuchi and more Wide Awake News Radio. 3 minutes. Hang tight. Outstanding. Very, very informative. So if you are at all interested on how we got to where we are and what the plan is to go forward, go to www.asalbuchi, salbuchi.com.ag. Is that right?
AR.
Okay.
For Argentina.
Let me give it again. It's the letter A, Salbuchi, salbuchi.com.ar. So go there and you can download that book for $20, and it's going to a great cause, guys. I don't know if we're going to get a lot of time to talk about the secondrepublic.com, the site you're building, this momentum that you've achieved. You're going to take it even further, and I know the funds that you're getting from the sale of your book is what helped you come on with us tonight and drives your future endeavors. So go to asalbuchi.com-AR. Get the book. All right, Adrian, go ahead and continue. We were during the break a little bit. We were talking about he was telling me all of the strife he has seen in his 60 short years inside of Argentina. This takeover. We have coups. We have all kinds of financial crises, one after another. So he's seen the whole gambit of this con game. And right now, you just told me a story where you literally have the government, the people of Argentina have, they're in the streets again. They're rallying, they're protesting, they're banging their pots and pans. And so the government is letting out. No, I'm gonna let you tell it because this is just ridiculous. Go ahead.
Well, yeah. What I was talking about with Charlie is that in my 60 years of life, I've gone through basically three government coups, four government coups rather, sorry, and three financial meltdowns. We had hyperinflation in 1989. We had a sudden devaluation in 75. In 1975, and then in 2001, 2002, we had a full-fledged banking, monetary, and financial collapse. I mean, it was complete collapse, and it's been very tough getting back on our feet. Basically, Argentina ends up getting back on its feet because we are an extremely wealthy country from the point of view of our natural resources. That's why the global power elite is so keen to come in here and get it all out. And we're very underpopulated. Argentina is the 6th largest territory, and yet we only have the 41st largest population in the world. So that's a very dangerous formula from the point of view of what these people might want to do here. I tremble at the idea that a coming Latin American a spring with different characteristics than we've seen in the Middle East, because there are different problems down here, but I see them coming over to see how they can take over our territory, firing as little shots as possible, or the shots that they want to shoot, anyway, one way or the other. And the idea is that, what Charlie was saying, if we can use the public enemies that if we read between the lines, that our enemy, the global power elite, is saying they hate the sovereign nation state, they want to control our currency, they want us all to live indebted permanently, they want us to do all these things. If we can do away with that, all we have to do is just transform those public enemies that the global elite are telling us that they do fear, and turn them into our fundamental pillars to refound Argentina, to refound Brazil, to even refound the United States of America. You need literally a second independence. A war in the general sense is a second war of independence that we all have to fight to take our countries back, because they're not going to give them up easily. But the first point, and that's the idea behind the book itself, is that we need to understand the model behind which all of this works. Let me just give you a very brief example. I write a lot for RT. I know, Charlie, you're on RT regularly yourself. Mm-hmm. So, they are very good alternative media. And I do some interviews, and I also write some articles here. And I wrote one some time back, and I called it the Shylock factor, to try to explain what's happening in Greece with its sovereign debt, and what's happening in Spain, and what's happening in Italy, and what's happening in Britain, and what is going to end up happening in America. And God knows it's happened so many times down here in Argentina. We think that when a country owes money and it gets all very tough, it's because the bankers want their money back. Wrong. The last thing that bankers want is their money back. They just want you to refinance, turn it forward, roll it over forwards, so that they can do other things. And I call that the Shylock effect from The Merchant of Venice, the great play by William Shakespeare, written 417 or 418 years ago, where you had the usurer, Shylock, giving a 3,000 ducat, which is a lot of money at the time, loan to the merchant, to Antonio the merchant. And if he doesn't pay back, he says, if you don't pay back, and they actually sign an agreement, a contract, you will give me a pound of your flesh. And the moral of the whole thing is that what Shylock, the usurer, the banker, your Citicorp of today, and your Goldman Sachs, they don't want the money back. They don't want the billions of dollars that Greece owes to them, or Argentina owes to them, or just about every country owes to them. They want their pound of flesh. And the pound of flesh is not literally a pound of flesh. In the case of Argentina, the pound of flesh says, okay, since you cannot pay back the debt, we're going to refinance you. But in order to refinance you, you're going to have to allow investors, our investors, into your country, and we're going to take over your oil, your mining, your food, your potable water. We're going to do everything we want with your country. And you figure, well, how do they do that? We're going to finance the political campaigns of politician A, politician B, and politician C, so that when they come into power and they become the president of Argentina, they will enact the necessary laws so that all these nasty things that we want to do will be legal.
Right.
And that is the basic idea behind the model. Let me give you another example. In Honduras, they just agreed that they will create private cities, completely private cities, that will be sovereign enclaves inside of Honduras. Poor Honduras is an absolute colony of the global power elite. So that what they are doing is they are oozing their way into countries through the legal system, through the debt system, the whole debt-based system. And they're doing that in America too. In order to control Americans, they have the Patriot Act. They have to put all this fear into you. They have to tell you, no, you must believe that 9/11 were the 19 nuts led by a crazy guy with a turban hiding in a cave in Afghanistan. And if you don't, they get really nasty when they realize that Charlie McGrath does not believe that, and the people that listen to Charlie McGrath not only do not believe 9/11, They don't believe quantitative easing 3 to bail out the banks by Mr. Bernanke because it's bailing out himself and his own people. Not Obama has not sanctioned one single law in his 4-year tenure that will help the people of the United States. All they do is help Goldman Sachs and Citicorp and Bank of America and so forth.
That's exactly right.
So the idea, and that's what in a way the book tries to do. But the book, what my book does is basically put in, I don't know, 150 pages or whatever, what you're saying, Charlie, and what I'm saying, what a whole host of folks out there are saying. I'm just sort of, saying, okay, let's put this in several chapters so that we can talk about, I don't know, historical lies as an instrument of domination, realize that we don't live under democracy, realize how the global power elite actually works, how the debt model works, but there's nothing new in the book in the sense that I'm just trying to say, let's put all of these ideas together, let's build a model, and you see, once you build a model, and it's sequential, it's consistent, and it makes sense. When you have a model about something really wonderful happens. Things become predictable. When you don't have a model, and you just read the newspapers, and you just read the New York Times or the Washington Post, you say, oh my God, the sky is falling. Right. There's trouble all over the place. What the hell is all of this about? But when you have the model, you start understanding what it's all about.
No doubt about it. And we'll break that down in our final segment with Adrian Salbuchi in 3.5 minutes. Guys, hang tight. We'll be right back. Oh, great guest, Adrian Salbuchi. Great conversation we're having during the commercial breaks. And I think what I'm going to do, we've been talking about the new book, The Coming World Government, Tragedy and Hope, available at asalbuchi.com. AR. What is AR? AR.
Argentina.
Argentina, yeah. I'm thinking AG is what we should be here. So asalbuchi.com .ar. You can go there and download for $20 The Coming World Government, Tragedy and Hope. And we were talking during the break that, that all across the world, Adrian, all across the world, it isn't like there's not enough information out there. There's plenty of information out there. But you made a very, very excellent point during the break, which is the average person is inundated with information, and they really are tired of the same old presenters giving them this information. It's always the same solution: more power, more freedom, more power to the elite, more freedom taken, usurped from you. So they are looking. They have this information. It's a quagmire of information, overload, desensitized with information on every front, financial, military, you name it. And there is a yearning for somebody that can explain this information, somebody like you who can explain this information and make it make sense. Because people are starting to understand, wait a minute, all this power to these same banks over and over again, and they keep doing the same thing over and over again. We become more poor, they become more rich, we lose more freedom, they gain more power. So when somebody like you, Adrian Salbuchi, comes along and breaks it down, say, look, this isn't just something that happened 2 months ago, this has been going on for decades. I think it's resonating more with people now. Would you agree?
Absolutely, and you just hit the nail on the head. It's the historical perspective that will often, or I would even say always, allow you to start understanding the model. During the conference I was giving here a couple of months ago, one of the people, after I finished the conference and we started a debate and a Q&A session, he asked, well, what is the global power elite's real tough weapon? What is it that they use? And I thought for a moment, I go say, well, you might think it's the military power, which they have. It's huge. I mean, look at Iraq, look at Libya, look at Afghanistan, but that's not the real power. You might say it's money. Okay, money, but, a lot of people also have money. And I said, you know what their real ultimate weapon, their real secret weapon is? That they, which is a very small and compact, numerically small and compact group of people, have been trained from very early on in life to think and plan long term. Whilst 99.9% of the rest of us, you and me, and I'm sure everybody that's listening in now, we were schooled, whether in America, Europe, or in South America, we were schooled in the public schools, in college, in our families, to think short term. I mean, what is life for most people? Well, I grow up, I go to school, I get a job, I get married, have a couple of kids, I work for 30, 40 years, and then I retire, and game over. That's it. And they know, when I say they, I mean the global power elite, that they have a much longer term planning thing. They have to plan for future generations. They will plan, a Rockefeller today will plan to what a Rockefeller is going to be born in 10 or 20 or 30 years down the line will have to do. That's why through Freemasonry, they use symbols to communicate long term, to communicate to those future generations in spite of the change in intellectual paradigms that might occur. One of their elite members, he was the first editor, I think, of Foreign Affairs, or the second editor of Foreign Affairs, which is the official publication of the Council on Foreign Relations, a guy by the name of Walter Lippmann. He wrote a book back in the 20s, and he said, the people of the United States, the people of any country, the people are like somebody who comes into a play in the middle of the second act and leaves before the second act ends. And then they go back home and they say, hey, what was the play all about? Oh, I don't know. I went in and there was a guy screaming and a girl crying and there was a good guy and a bad guy. But he really did not understand what the play was all about. And then he added, whilst we, the global power elite, we stick from the very beginning of the first act and we stay on until the very end of the third act and we understand fully how the whole thing works. Mm. And that's what they want us to do. They want us to have a little bits of information here and there, but basically understand nothing.
Yeah.
So when we start understanding, we become dangerous, like you, Charlie, and like me.
Well, no, but it's an excellent point. And in fact, in one of my recent commentary videos, I talked about not long term ago. The video was chilling reality mortgage I got this wrong. Chilling reality mortgage cops are coming, and in this video, I talk about just that. That we're supposed to forget what happened. I'm not talking in the first act. I'm talking, still in this act. 5 minutes ago, we're supposed to forget what happened in 2007, 2008. With the meltdown of the mortgage fiasco, and what led to this carnage that we see right now. We're supposed to forget that is the reason we're in the condition we're in right now, and we're supposed to forget that it was these bankers that were bailed out just a few years ago that has taken so much of our financial freedom away from us and plunged the world into literally people. I mean, the argument can be made because it's true. There's literally people dying in the streets because of the malfeasance of these corrupt bankers and the collaboration between them and Washington D.C. But everything now that's being talked about in our political freak show that we have going on here, it's all disconnected. They try to disconnect it from what happened just 4 years ago. We're not supposed to remember what brought us here. We're supposed to think about the here and the now, and if we elect Mitt Romney, he's going to bring jobs miraculously somehow back to this country. It's a true disservice by our, so-called media, that they don't draw lines and connect dots, and I think people like you do this, and that's why more and more people are gravitating towards it.
Well, yeah, I mean, you've just mentioned one specific point, the fiasco that started in 2008. Mm-hmm. People must understand that the 2008 fiasco, it was just 4 years old, only a few days ago that it actually happened on the 15th of September 2008. Right. We can trace that back to the fact that in the last part, or in the second Bill Clinton term in office, he and his people got rid of Glass-Steagall, which was a very good law back from 1936, and he imposed a series of financial reform acts. And the guys who did that back in the late 90s was Lawrence Summers, Robert Rubin, Alan Greenspan from the Fed, and Timothy Geithner, amongst others. By the way, they're all Trilateral Commission and Council on Foreign Relations members while we're at it. And what does Obama do? Well, he's got people like Summers and Rubin as advisors. Yeah, he doesn't have Greenspan, but he has Bernanke, who's just a younger Greenspan, and he has Timothy Geithner as Secretary of Treasury. How can you expect the guy who is one of the people who caused the financial meltdown back by getting rid of legislation back in the late 90s? How can you expect the guy to come now and solve the problems that he himself created when he himself is factor?
Yeah, and honestly, they're untouchable. They're not they're not spoken of by the mainstream media. When they're spoken of by the business mainstream media, it's generally in glowing fashion. Time Magazine making Jim Bernanke the Man of the Year a few years ago. The adulation that's given to these guys is saving the global economy. And it's just not even in the debate in the mainstream political theater that we have right now. You're not going to hear Obama Romney talk about, the creation of sound money, constitutional money that's not issued in debt and it benefits the people of a nation. You're not going to hear that. You're going to hear, they're going to point fingers and talk about social safety nets, and they're going to talk about, what Romney did on, for his early career. But it's going to be nothing that really has anything to do with our current situation that we're in. And I find myself in debates quite often with family members or coworkers when they want to bring up a current hot button topic, be it Solyndra, be it whatever the case is of the day. And I'm like, do you understand how completely and totally irrelevant this topic you're speaking to is? Don't you understand this is put before you to distract you so you can't see what's happening? The trees are being put before the forest, and you need to understand and wake up, because it isn't Obama, it isn't Romney. They're spokesmen, they're frontmen for these people that you're speaking to, these corporate bigwigs and these financial tycoons that never leave the scene. They just rotate from position to position.
One of the things I often say down here in Argentina, it's probably more obvious in the case of Argentina, I'll grant you that, is we have a woman president. Her name is Cristina Kirchner. And I say, look, irrespective of whether it's Cristina Kirchner or any one of our previous presidents, if you redefine the job post, President of Argentina or President of the United States, under the title of Chief Executive Officer, that starts to put some clarity into the whole thing, because you figure, okay, if Obama is the CEO of the United States of America, well, you will automatically have to ask yourself, who and where is the board of directors who named the CEO? And on top of the board of directors, who are the shareholders, who are the real owners of the United States of America? I remember, it must have been in 1997, a Time magazine cover that said, "The Committee to Save the World." And it showed Greenspan, Rubin, and Lawrence Summers. And these same guys are still in power. Okay, not directly. Greenspan's too old, but Bernanke is exactly his little mental child, so to speak. They're doing exactly the same thing. And they're all Council on Foreign Relations and Trilateral Commission members, because these think tanks, the Trilateral Commission, the Bilderberg, the Council on Foreign Relations, the Royal Institute of International Affairs, the American Societies, they are a network of geopolitical planning entities long-term to make sure that we will end up having this world government, like it or not. And it basically is, since power has been privatized, because that's the real major privatization of the last 20, 30 years, power has been privatized, so it's only natural that the coming world government will be basically a private entity, although it will have a public facade in order to enact laws that will make you do things and that can actually jail you if you don't.
That's right. And you touched on it early in the program. It doesn't work by pointing guns at people. I mean, they can do that to shut somebody up, but they got to have a populace that is to the point where they actually believe this garbage. And I think, you talk about the president of Argentina, the United States, as CEO, I think I don't think they're that high up on the totem, but in my opinion, they're more like a VP in charge of public relations. They're not, they're all about making promises to the populace that they know full well they have no control over the policy that's going to come keeps these promises or not. Adrian Salbuchi, thank you very much. We made an off-air gentleman's agreement to do this at least once a month, and I'm going to hold myself to that. So, Adrian, thank you very much for coming on. Again, if you want to go buy his book, please do. The Coming World Government Tragedy and Hope. Go to asalbuchi.com.ar. Asalbuchi, SALBUCHI.com.ar. Adrian, thank you very much. I appreciate your time and staying up late for us.
Thank you, Charlie. My pleasure, and I'm here for you whenever you say.
You're a good man. All right. Thank you, Adrian. Okay, hang tight.